The Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Once upon a time, in the heart of a lush kingdom, surrounded by towering forests and majestic mountains, there lived a kind and beautiful princess named Snow White. She was adored by all who knew her for her gentle heart, radiant smile, and unwavering compassion. Snow White's mother, the queen, had passed away when she was just a child, leaving her in the care of her father, the king. However, tragedy struck once again when the king fell ill and passed away, leaving Snow White orphaned and alone.
As Snow White grew older, her beauty blossomed, captivating the hearts of all who beheld her. But her beauty also drew the envy of her stepmother, the new queen, whose heart was consumed by jealousy and vanity. The queen, unable to bear the thoughts of anyone rivaling her beauty, devised a wicked plan to rid herself of Snow White. She ordered her most loyal huntsman to take the princess deep into the forest and to end her life. But the huntsman, moved by Snow White's innocence and purity, could not bring himself to carry out the queen's orders. Instead, he led Snow White deep into the heart of the forest, far from the queen's reach, and urged her to flee and never return. Lost and alone in the dense forest, Snow White stumbled upon a quaint cottage hidden amongst the trees. The cottage appeared abandoned, yet there was a warmth emanating from within that drew Snow White closer. As she cautiously approached, she found the door unlocked and cautiously pushed it open. Inside, she discovered a cozy living space adorned with simple furnishings and a crackling fire in the hearth. Feeling a sense of relief and gratitude, Snow White decided to rest in the cottage until morning. Little did she know, the cottage belonged to 7 dwarfs, who worked tirelessly in the nearby mines. When the dwarfs returned home that evening, they were surprised to find their humble abode occupied by a stranger. But their surprise quickly turned to concern when they discovered Snow White fast asleep in one of their beds. Gently waking her, the dwarfs listened as Snow White recounted her tale of woe, explaining how she had been cast out by her wicked stepmother. Touched by her plight, the dwarfs welcomed Snow White into their home with open arms, promising to protect her from any harm that may come her way. In return for their kindness, Snow White insisted on helping the dwarfs with their chores, cooking hearty meals and keeping their home neat and tidy. Together, they formed an unlikely family, bound by friendship, trust, and mutual respect. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months as Snow White and the dwarfs lived harmoniously in the forest. But unbeknownst to them, the queen's envy and malice continued to fester, driving her to seek out Snow White and put an end to her once and for all. Disguising herself as an old peddler woman, the queen journeyed into the forest, armed with a poisoned apple that would cast Snow White into an eternal slumber. Cunning and deceitful, she approached the cottage and offered Snow White the apple, claiming it was a gift of goodwill. Trusting and unsuspecting, Snow White accepted the apple with gratitude and took a bite, unaware of the danger that lurked within. As the poison coursed through her veins, Snow White's vision blurred, and she collapsed to the ground, unconscious. Heartbroken and distraught, the dwarfs returned home to find Snow White lying motionless on the floor. Desperate to save her, they tried everything in their power to wake her from her cursed sleep, but nothing seemed to work. With heavy hearts, the dwarfs placed Snow White in a glass coffin and laid her to rest in a clearing deep within the forest. They vowed to stand guard over her day and night, hoping and praying for a miracle that would bring their beloved friend back to life. As days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months, Snow White remained in her enchanted slumber, her beauty untouched by the passage of time. But deep within the kingdom, a handsome prince caught wind of Snow White's plight and felt a stirring in his heart unlike anything he had ever known. Determined to rescue Snow White from her cursed sleep, the prince embarked on a perilous journey through the enchanted forest, facing countless obstacles and challenges along the way. Guided by his unwavering love and determination, he pressed on, his heart filled with hope and longing. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the prince stumbled upon the clearing where Snow White lay, from ethereal and serene against the backdrop of the forest. Summoning all of his courage and resolve, the prince leaned down and pressed his lips against Snow White's, pouring every ounce of his love and devotion into the kiss. And in that moment, as if by magic, Snow White stirred from her slumber, her eyes fluttering open to meet the prince's gaze. Overcome with joy and relief, Snow White threw her arms around the prince, tears of gratitude streaming down her cheeks. For in that moment, she knew that she was safe, her true love by her side to protect her from harm. Together, Snow White and the prince returned to the kingdom, where they were greeted with cheers and celebration from all who knew them. And as they stood before the court, hand in hand, Snow White's stepmother, the wicked queen, watched from afar, her heart consumed by envy and regret. And so, Snow White and the prince were married in a lavish ceremony, their love shining brightly for all the kingdom to see. And as they danced beneath the stars, surrounded by friends and loved ones, Snow White knew that she had found her happily ever after at last. For in the end, love had triumphed over darkness, and light had conquered all.